Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Data Ideas podcast. This is Dustin, and pleased to be joined by a very special guest this week. We have the Chief Evangelist from Alteryx, Joshua Burkhow, joining us. Hey, Joshua.
Hey, how's it going, Dustin?
Doing well, doing well. Excited about this. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Name's Joshua Burkhow, Chief Evangelist at Alteryx. I fly around the world telling anybody and everybody about analytics, data science, AI, obviously flavored in with a lot of Alteryx talk.
Very cool. Awesome. And we had the chance to meet. We met virtually initially and then in person out at Inspire. And I understand that, so there was this, for those that didn't know, okay, you can see tons of pictures online and on social. There was actually a bus that was parked in the middle of alternation at the event. So kind of the center of the event. And Joshua actually drove this bus to the event. And I understand you have kind of a funny story to tell about that.
Yeah. First off, what did you think about Inspire? Good.
I thought it was awesome. I mean, it was, first of all, the value of bringing everybody together in the industry in a fun environment like what Alteryx had set up. It's invaluable. I mean, you got everybody kind of in one place and for 3 or 4 days without there's some distractions, but it's relatively free of kind of the day-to-day work stuff. And, I'm still talking with people, continuing conversations that I started on the floor out there, and it's invaluable for individuals as well as like for the companies, I think, that send people out there.
Yeah, I love the mix. I've probably done 6 or 7 of them now, and I love being able to nerd out, learn new things, talk to users, trying to solve world hunger type of problems. But we all go have immense amount of fun, goof off, and relax a little bit. It's so perfect. So the whole van thing was, to be very clear, it's a 66, I believe, or 68 VW bus. Fully decked out. We'll have to give links to the pictures and stuff, but it's actually kind of a funny story. It all started when I went to Irvine, which is our global headquarters, and I was sitting there in the lobby, and our wonderful founder, one of our 3 founders, Dean Stoker, came in, and we always sit down, chat, catch up, and everything. And we happened to have the original VW bus there in the lobby. It's a different one, just to be clear. Like, it's not the same one that I drove, but I had always made these comments over the years. I've known him maybe 12 years or something like that. And I'm like, one of these days we're going to get this thing running and we're going to drive it all over town and we're going to just have a good time and talk to people and evangelize Alteryx. And he always got a laugh out of that, but like there was an undertone of like, yeah, we're going to do that. That's the thing we got to do. And wouldn't you know, like a good friend in brand, this guy named Michael, he got the idea and he was like, okay, this is it. We're going to do this. Went out, found a van and found this company that basically remodels and rebuilds them from near scratch and did an amazing job. If y'all look at the pictures, it's just astounding, just amazing. And I got to drive it from Irvine, from the headquarters, all the way to Las Vegas. Now, that seems like, okay, just a road trip that could be fun and everything. But I don't think what people don't realize is it didn't have air conditioning in it at the time because, we're moving fast and quick. And like, we'll do that when we get to Vegas. We'll be fine. Probably lost about 20 pounds in water weight.
Let's give us a feel for the temperature level.
Oh, it was going through the desert, right? Like it was wild. So I looked like the whole time looked like a 10-year-old kid who had just been given a bucket of sugar because I was in my element. It was one of the coolest things I got to do. I still I'm going to do it more for like Snowflake and some other conferences and stuff. It is the thing I like about it the most, to be honest, though, like obviously driving a classic vehicle, amazing. But the representation of the brand and that we can have fun doing this. I'm a huge advocate for that. I think all this stuff we do in data and analytics, it deals with some seriousness and technical stuff, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. Like we enjoy it. So I really like that we are able to do that, make a statement on this, that, it's we have the ability to impact a lot of people, but we can have fun doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And I know when I was doing the Live at Inspire event with Kate, we, asked folks to tell us where they wanted the bus to go next. You mentioned some of the events you're planning on taking. Do you know where it's going next?
Yeah, I'll have it in Snowflake next week in Vegas.
Okay, so you are taking to Snowflake next week. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay.
It'll be
So
good.
folks,
So I think it'll be a lot of fun. We might be picking up a few friends and having some good interviews, and we'll have a good time.
Very cool. Well, perhaps this episode I think is going to publish here a few days before Snowflake. So perhaps we will put this clip out there or something to help direct more people to check it out. It really is very cool and really well done to Joshua's point. So it's worth taking a look.
Totally agree. Having it in the alternation, sitting there, all our customers got to take pictures with it and just experience it. Matter of fact, I literally have. You're gonna love this. I literally have.
Look at that! Wow.
I have a small model of it. So
wow,
this is how much I really love it, because I just like sitting in there under obviously lights and having people, get the pictures with it. The interviews you all did were right in front of it.
Yeah.
It had this magical feel to it.
It really did. It was pretty cool. I hadn't seen, something like that done before. So it's pretty cool. And the fact that you get to drive it and you have these fun stories, this is turning into a pretty fun thing.
Yeah.
Who knows where it's going to go, literally and figuratively.
We've got a few secrets up our sleeve.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to seeing what some of those turn out to be. So Joshua, switching over to, not that the bus is not a serious topic, but I mean, it's it's pretty darn cool. But getting a little more serious here, how did you first? You have this role of chief evangelist. You've obviously risen up in the field. We'll talk a little bit about a book that you have coming out in a few minutes. But how did you first get interested in data and analytics?
Yeah, it's actually I have a lot of fun thinking about it, just because it's not, I wouldn't say traditional. I found so many people that haven't kind of had a traditional path, so not really, out in left field here. But
yeah,
I was prototypical squirrely kid, couldn't sit still, can't really sit still still. But I was kind of smart enough to know that I wouldn't last too long in college, not because I wasn't obsessed with certain topics and subject areas, but
sure,
I wouldn't be able to sustain focus and be successful. And so had the wild, crazy idea of joining U.S. military, the U.S. Marines to be specific. And one of the things that they're really big in is, you do this test, the ASVAB, kind of figure out your technical aptitude and then try to put you in the right roles and in schooling. And I ended up scoring pretty high, totally shocking, surprising to me. And I went through comm school in the Marine Corps, which is it's not the most technical, but it's technical enough to where I ended up getting number one out of that school. And
wow.
It was this shift in my kind of understanding, like, okay, maybe I'm not a dummy. Maybe I might have some aptitude here. And, I never thought I was a real dummy. I just didn't, have capacity to understand what I could do. And so when I got out, I flushed around a little bit, but I really got into kind of the line of the more engineering roles and more technical support type of roles, engineering support. And that was all great. But the more I did that, the more I kind of got this interest and passion for, like, okay, what is all this stuff supporting? Why, what am I building this system for, set of servers for, or this network for? Like, what's going through it all? And that's where it kind of led to data and information. And once I kind of made that jump, I remember I got trained on Cognos BI, which I thought was at the time the craziest, coolest thing ever. Started getting into reporting and analytics and a lot of BI work. And it was there. Like, I couldn't let it go. I would spend nights and weekends doing it. And then to kind of skip ahead, I got good at Cognos, which was put me at Nike in a BI role, and quickly I became the leader of a data team for the global supply chain. Had super lucky with amazing team, amazing leadership, and that's where I became an absolute nut fanatic for Alteryx. Like I never looked back from that point.
That's awesome. And one thing that stood out as you were talking there was you mentioned amazing leadership. And the being under great leadership in my own career has been so important. I mean, when I've made the biggest advances, it's been when I've been under great leadership. And and so I've brought that up myself in discussions I've been invited to, and I'm curious for something that people ask me is like, so how do I get aligned with a great leader? How do I know that someone that I'm going to be in a good situation with good leaders? I guess. What's your perspective on that? What do you look for in other leaders that you want to be aligned with and work with?
Yeah, I've been part of it is just silly dumb luck. Right? We have to address that because it is a thing. Sure. I don't ever want to kind of falsely advertise that, but many of us will. I think we can kind of align ourselves or coerce ourselves to where that luck happens more often.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Two things that I kind of come to now believe. Talk to me in 5 years, maybe we have a different answer. The two things that I think about now is I want to work on cool stuff. I passionately find others, and specifically leaders, who are kind of like, I'm not here to just handle the status quo. I'm not here to just get my paycheck. I'm not here to just show up 9 to 5. I don't, that for me is not how I'm built. I want someone who's going to solve world hunger, who's going to land on the moon, who's going to land on Mars even. I want someone who really would go above and beyond to try to change the world. I'm very passionate about that concept, that idea. The other thing is someone that is nurturing enough, maybe different word I want to use, but like someone who can understand me as a human and be like, okay, he's not great at everything. He's maybe great at a few things. I'm going to use him that way. And those are the best leaders, because if you told me you're very detail oriented, and then I try to get you to build strategic decks on things, you're going to flounder. That's not your strength. That's not what you're built for and what you're more inclined to. So a good leader would say, okay, this person is really detailed oriented. I'm going to give them stuff that really fills them up, makes them happy, makes them want to show up and do great things.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that this, the getting aligned with folks that have, the willingness to give you freedom to work on things that align with your strengths. I think that this is a very, for whatever reason, underrated aspect of, the ability to accelerate in a career path. And so, or in an industry or field. And so I think that's great advice. I definitely encourage folks to think about that and think about what you just said and how they can find folks that let them do that. It's you're right. There's an element of luck. There has been, certainly for me too. But I like what you said, where, there's things you can do. And I think just being aware of this and thinking about who these people are and how can you talk with those types of people and how can you have lunch with them and take them to, all these kinds of things, right? The more you can work towards being aligned with those kinds of people, the better it's going to be for both sides, I think.
It's so true. And you actually bring up something that's really critical that I've really only fully understood in the last 5 years, but being well connected within the industry.
Right.
Reaching out to guys like you or others who I can say, hey, can you give me a perspective on this? Or,
sure,
hey, you might know some great leaders. Who do you recommend?
Right. That's
true. Being on LinkedIn and connecting to folks that are relatively similar or are in the area that you want to be in is super critical. Like you can't do this alone, right? It's something where you need to use your network and tap into the people that naturally probably want to help you succeed. And so
absolutely,
definitely where I think it is.
As it comes to us, you have a big role with a large tech company. I mean, chief evangelist for Alteryx, a company that's almost a household name, especially in tech households that have tech folks or data and analytics folks.
Yeah.
What's it been like going into a role like that, and kind of what were the last few, kind of the last few steps that got you into that, and just what does that all looked like and felt like, and give us a feel for it?
Yeah, it's truly, and no filter, no bones about it. I'm extremely fortunate and grateful. It is a lot of dumb luck too, like it's part of it. But I think one of the things that maybe contributed to where I'm at now is I kind of always liked being right on the line of business and technology.
Sure.
I love, working with the business side of a company, and these are your finance managers and directors and VPs, to supply chain execs, to anybody who's trying to move the business. But I always had the technical component to it, and figuring out, okay, how do we enable this? What does our data warehouse look like? Is that supplying the business with all the things they need? That little fine line is where I kind of danced for good 10, 15 years.
Sure.
Trying to figure out how that works together. And so when I got into my last role, I was the global solution architect of entire deployment of Alteryx across the world. We're talking 100,000 plus users, tons of servers, huge infrastructure. And so I got to see that at a huge scale. Now, that really helped me, is my ability to get up in front of people and talk, communicate, tied with my extreme passion for Alteryx and all the cool things that it does and what I like about it. And then having the underlying kind of street cred, if you will, like just that experience of being able to see it in the world and how it really works. That I think was a combo that really helped. I did a Evangelist podcast a little while ago, and it's always when you say something and then you realize, yeah, that's actually what I meant to say.
Right.
It's this idea that I couldn't shut up about it if I tried.
Right.
At the end of the day, somebody every day is going to hear about Alteryx from me. It's just, I'm so wired that way that I couldn't help it if I tried. And
that's
so
awesome.
That's when, you look at other evangelists. That's the defining factor of an evangelist, is you get excited about something.
Right.
Be an evangelist in anything, but you get excited about that thing and you have to evangelize it. You have to talk to people. You have to tell people. You will go at great odds, triumphing your greatest fears of either being on stage or doing a podcast or anything like that,
right,
just because the payoff is so great.
That's really cool, and I feel fortunate to I had a similar passion for building analytics programs, and I've joked that hey, people say, can I reach out to you and ask you a question about this or whatever, and I'm like, absolutely. I mean, this is what I do. I mean, I'd probably, if I didn't have a family, I'd probably do it for free, and
don't tell anybody our secret.
Right, don't tell me. We might have to edit that clip out, but
yeah, right. Especially don't tell my boss, right?
Right, yeah.
There is a really heavy sense of passion, excitement, and even on the worst days, which really there's not a whole lot for me personally, but even days when it's really busy, we're trying to get a lot of stuff done, it is still worth every second of it. It's still exciting, it's still fun, enjoyable, and again, very fortunate to get lucky there.
For sure, yeah. I can so relate to so much of what you said. I think that's really cool. And one question, we were talking a little bit about the fact that I co-host this thing called the Data Career Summit with Brandy Beals, and one question that we get a lot is from folks that are looking to transition into the field. And you were a former Marine, I believe, right? Yep. And you talked about some of these technical skills that you got, which you ended up mixing with some of the business acumen and expertise that you had. And that was really kind of one of those things that was a catalyst to moving you up into this field and giving you success in the field. Can you talk a little bit about that transition between being in the military and being a Marine, and then coming in and getting these technical skills and moving into the technical field? What does that look like? What do you recommend to others making a big transition like that?
Yeah, to make it a little bit, somewhat close to home and personal here is when I got out, I spent a good number of years, more than 5, let's say, where I didn't, the transition from a military lifestyle specifically is pretty different from civilian life. I mean, most people kind of conceptually have this, but I don't think most people really understand the difference. And the fact that like there are still today many folks that get out of the military, and it takes them, a few years sometimes to just get going, to adjust to the different lifestyle and the lack of structure, the lack of discipline and organization that is inherently bred into the military. And I, same way, once I got started, I was, done. I was on the path. I was like, all right, let's go. Let's start running now. But there's something there. And so there's, I think like there's programs out there, which I can talk a little bit about, that are really focused, and they understand this problem. They know it happens, and they're focused on trying to shorten that timeline, where what would be perfect scenario is that they come out of the military and hit the ground running, and they're able to tap into all these skills and all these capabilities that they've had in the military, but know where they need to adjust. There are certain ways and things that we think about and do in the military that don't really work in the civilian world. And so we have to adjust. We have to learn to change and make it fit, I think that's, I know tons of veterans that are, transitioning into analytics, hand over fist. They're just doing it like wild. There's a lot more focus. There's a lot more help. There's a lot more, there's a lot of veterans out there that are helping other veterans now.
Yeah.
Kind of giving a handout and say, hey, look, I'll help you. I'll kind of guide you so you don't have to make the same mistakes. There's a lot of things that, specifically if we talk about the military, the one thing that I almost always see that, might be the trigger for understanding if, a veteran specifically, I kind of apply it to, college grads and other people want to transition into analytics and data sciences. With the military, it's really about tying how data and information drive a mission, right? In the military, it's kind of sometimes life and death, right? Like a mission could be a very, very serious thing. And if you don't have the right data and information, you don't make the right decisions, there's some consequences we don't want to think about.
Right.
That conceptual idea is ingrained into us in the military, that data and information, having the right knowledge and facts on the ground are going to make all the difference in the world to a successful mission. That's how businesses run. Businesses that make good decisions will do well. Now, having someone who foundationally gets this is a superpower within the industry, within analytics and data science.
And so as we think about, so there's a couple of dynamics here, an individual that's wanting to enter the field, transition into the field, they, see that, hey, I don't have some of the technical skills that I need. And then on a broader level, we know that we have a skills gap in the field where, we've got all these folks that maybe want to be in the field, but, or maybe even within the context of one organization, maybe we don't have all the people we need skills wise, but we know we've got some folks that want to move into a data and analytics role and want to get the skills necessary to do it. What's your take on, like, how does Alteryx fit into helping, bridge this skills gap? And I know there's a lot of new programs Alteryx has come out with, and they're really into data education. Like, where does Alteryx fit in this whole equation?
Yeah, it's one of the areas that I just, I truly couldn't be more proud of that Alteryx is involved in this space. So there's really two areas. So the one that I was on stage, did part of the keynote about with the wonderful, amazing Libby Dwayne Adams, who's one of the co-founders as well.
I heard her speak as well. She was just amazing.
I absolutely love her, adore her. She is the crowning example of a good leader.
Right.
She is just that. So I could literally talk an hour, but one of the things that she spearheaded and is taking off like wildfire is this what we call Alteryx Sparked program. And it's really, meant around helping to educate folks, especially, college students and veterans in all the fundamental stuff, all analytics in general, and trying to make sure that they have the capability of a program and curriculum for Alteryx. And so if you think about it, take a college kid.
Yeah.
They're going through a program right now. There's this crazy huge demand for analytics folks. There's not, we can't fill it with the people that we have already. So we need the new folks, the college kids coming in that want to get into the industry. We need them educated. So this program is part of it is getting into these schools, university, and making it part of the program. As much as you're going to learn accounting, you should be learning analytics and analytics within software that these organizations use, which is Alteryx. So that is one of the key drivers behind it. The other thing is there's this program called DoD SkillBridge, managed by the Department of Defense. And SkillBridge is the simple way to think about it is, when you have somebody in the military that's about to transition out, they basically get 6 months upon command approval. Their command has to approve it, but they'll get 6 months to start picking up a skill set. And there's, military vets go everywhere. They go to white collar jobs, blue collar jobs, you name it. They might be, working in a factory, working at a desk, whatever, right? But there's this approach of giving them time while they're in to pick up the skills that they want, so that when they get out, they don't do like I did, where I, squander around a little bit, like a good number of years, and pick up space. If they can hit the ground running right out of the military, their lives are infinitely better. And Alteryx is tied into that too. It's with the Spark program and DoD SkillBridge, we're able to provide Alteryx through that program, which I'm beyond.
So people can use Alteryx when they're in that program.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
We'll put links to both of those programs in the show notes for folks to take a look at. When you were learning, going back to like when you were, you couldn't basically stop using Alteryx, you were getting super, excited about it and seeing the value in it. That way, as you were learning, were there any like specific formal training programs that you did, or did you get certified, or what did that look like?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think like this is that delineation that you make is, not every time is, going through a college course going to be sufficient or be the right thing for you.
Yeah.
I appreciate people that can do that.
Right.
That is one good pathway to go, but it wasn't my path. I was more of a hands-on, like, hey, let's play with it and figure it out and get it, learn it on our own. And I'm passionate enough and driven enough to make that happen. When I first started, a lot of it was my own, first weeks and months, it was my own, spending time, personal time, frankly, learning the tool, learning the software. I had a relatively okay background in analytics. I understood basic statistics, that sort of thing, but I wouldn't call anywhere in the realm of what was going on in data science then. But I was definitely passionate enough to learn it all. And so I did spend enough. Now, this is one of the crazy things that happened with Alteryx is that they were very forward-leaning in this idea of getting as much learning materials out in the community. In the community, we're kind of I mean the Alteryx community, and that's community.alteryx.com. It is world-renowned and it's award-winning. It is so well put together, where it has forums, but it has little vignettes. Like you can learn how to do a thing in Alteryx in less than 2-3 minutes. and you can do that kind of on your own time and then go practice and get good at it. And I used a lot of that. I also
Almost
have
learning in sprints.
yeah, right. And
Yeah.
it for me, that worked great because I didn't have a week to go off and go through a training program at the time. And I went and I would, watch these videos, and then the community was there. I could literally post a question, be like, okay, I just learned how to, input data from multiple Excel sheets. This is cool, but I'm having this error. Can anybody help me? Someone would respond in like 15 seconds. It was wild. And then I would literally do it, learn it, go and pick it up. And my learning trajectory was really, really fast because I knew what I wanted to do. I just needed to know how to do it in Alteryx and bring that forward. Now, having said that, one of the other areas that Alteryx is really good at is we have these kind of formal training programs. We also have incredible partners and again, not trying to sell anything, but we just got lucky that we have partners who are as passionate as all of us.
Sure.
Who want to help users to learn Alteryx and be useful in Alteryx. So they put on trainings as well that might be a 1-day training, 2-3 day trainings that get them into the product. I would still argue though that, and I tell this almost to everybody to kind of partly to understand the power of Alteryx is I've been doing this, I don't know, 12 years, something like that. And I've mostly full time for that 12 years. Me personally, have probably tapped into 60%, 70% of the full capability of what Alteryx could do. That's wild. Like if someone who's put in that amount of time, and I've been all the way up to advanced certified, and I've taught thousands of people all over the US in how to use it. And if I haven't even tapped into it, like the curve, there's this quick learning curve to be efficient at the beginning, but then there's this long tail that you keep finding surprises. It's quite amazing. I'm always dumbfounded by that because I'll go out to the community and someone will be like, oh, look how I mapped the flight path of a plane and did XYZ, and it just never thought of that I could possibly do that. Right?
That's cool. Almost unlimited use cases and functionality. Yeah.
It's
very cool. So, the right people, the right skills, these are all things that are very important to, organizations, right? And so we've been talking a lot about what does it look like for the individual to, upskill and get, the skills under their belt necessary to transition in the field. But like from an organization standpoint, there's tremendous incentive to have the right people and right skills. And, it helps in terms of their own organizational maturity and competency with analytics and ability to quickly, deliver impactful analytics initiatives. And I know Alteryx has something out there that's called the data scorecard.
That's right.
Right. And can you talk a little bit about what the data scorecard looks like, and then also kind of maybe that tie between, the data literacy and the competency of individuals in an organization and that impact on the maturity?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've liked this topic for a long time, just the analytics maturity of an organization. It was something as a consultant, we would kind of lead with and say, look, you should probably know where you are from an organizational point of view in analytics, but be very honest. Most of that time was like a line chart, and it was like, you're that dot, right? You're somewhere up on this line chart that really doesn't like drive a whole lot of action.
Right.
Doesn't tell you what your peers in your industry are at, doesn't give you any context to what level you're at, what would be good next actions, what are efforts that would be potentially high ROI and be valuable to your organization. So like there was a lot of folks that they wouldn't feel like they're lost, but they were just like weren't gaining traction as fast as they wanted to. There are a lot of change makers who had to work extra hard to get there. So what was interesting, total coincidence, was I'm originally from Portland. working at Nike in Beaverton, and this amazing institute, International Institute of Analytics, is based out of Portland. And I've had a friendship with Mr. Jack Phillips for probably going on 12 years now.
Okay.
Him and I met during Nike, but he heads up this organization. And coincidentally, Alteryx worked with them to really think about, okay, how do we actually measure analytics maturity? How could we, give something to a customer to take a survey of sorts and figure out where they really are, and then we can help them to get to where they need to be and where they want to be in a very structured, data-driven manner. And that's the nexus of it all. That's the magic of it all, is that they came up with this data scorecard, which helps to do exactly that. It's I think you provide a link, but it's out on the Alteryx website. The idea is that IIA came and said, hey, we've been working with these companies for tons of years. We know good analytically driven companies versus not, and we know what they're doing that's getting them there. And so they're bringing all that intelligence and helping us to form that view of the customer and give them these practical, like, sound advice that's not, marketing speak, to be frank. Like, it's not something where it's kind of, oh, here's your magic score, good luck, hope that helps you, right? This is much more practical, where it's like, here's what you can do to get there.
Got it. Okay. Can anyone use this? Can any organization go and find out what their score is, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's free to use. It's like I said, it's out on the website. Everybody can kind of go after it. And then I really highly recommend, getting it, figuring out what where you're at. Spend some time on it. Don't be in a mad rush just to take it. Think clearly about some of the questions, because they're well put together. Their intention is to really flush out some of these areas that you can get help with.
Very cool. All right, yeah, we'll definitely put the link to it in the show notes. One thing that I wanted to touch back on was, you're talking about the power of the community, the Alteryx community, earlier. And as I was out at Inspire, one thing that really struck me was how passionate individuals are about Alteryx. There's many that I think would talk kind of in the same way that you have about the tool. And yeah, what do you think it is, kind of in closing here, and then we'll get to a couple fun questions. What is it that you think makes this community so tight and thriving, and why are people so willing to help each other so quickly, kind of for free on the forums and stuff? What is it that's the secret sauce?
Yeah, honestly, it's probably the thing I love the most about it, is that community. I think, and I just kind of put two and two together, but I think the real essence of it is the appreciation of not necessarily the difficulty of it, but this isn't easy for everybody to get started in, right? When you're first into analytics, and especially if getting into data science, there's some challenges. It's not one of those things where you can just show up and you're like, okay, I got this figured out. Let's just go. It takes some time. It takes sometimes years to get relatively proficient. And so there's this appreciation of the people who have done that. Exactly where I kind of came with is, I had this moment at 10 years when I had used Alteryx for 10 years, and somebody was like, well, what have you learned, or what would you teach, others that, don't need to make the same mistakes and don't need to spend as much time as you did to learn. And this was the light bulb moment, really, like the clouds parted sort of moment, where I was like, oh, darn it, I got to write a book, because I couldn't get away with just saying an offhand comment like, oh, you got to learn, you got to study. I needed to make it simpler for others. And that essence is where the community thrives, because there's a bunch of people that are trying to learn Alteryx, and in turn learn analytics and data science, and even getting into AI now. And there's a whole plethora of people that are super hyper passionate about Alteryx, passionate about Alteryx analytics, passionate about solving problems in general, and they're the advocates. They're the evangelists. They're the.
Sure.
I mean, we even have a program called the ACEs, which is, these
Yeah,
are.
I got a chance to meet some of them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the top tier, and I was blessed to be one myself. But like, they are the top tier of Alteryx users around the world. Like, they're both technically capable, but they're also experienced. They've been around the block. They know how, whether through consulting or being in their organizations, they know how to apply these, going after problem solving and the like. And so there's just this ultimate passion about helping everybody. You will see it. You saw it when you went to Inspire. That is the epitome of it, is where, you'll see people that meet each other from the community. They're like, oh, I now know what you look like because you've been helping me for the last year.
Yeah.
I think that's the most amazing part by far.
And you mentioned in there, you kind of slipped it in there, but that you had to write a book. Now, what I have to know, what is this book?
Yeah, it was quite funny. I have an amazing friend, a guy named Trayson, who also in Alteryx Ace, who kind of connected me with O'Reilly and said, hey, I had told Trayson I've always been interested in writing a book, once I had this kind of realization, and got going and ended up writing the Alteryx Designer Definitive Guide, which is we're finishing up now, so it'll be out to print this year. And it is the definitive guide on getting started with Alteryx. So the idea is, it is the book that I wish I had 12 years ago when I was first starting. Something that both I could have on my desk. There's a electronic version as well, but something that would be proficiently deep in it, so you could really get a good grasp. But also, like, hey, I know this part of this stuff, but there's some areas like spatial analytics, or working with third-party data, or working with parsing and something that I just not that strong in.
Sure.
I just can flip to it and go straight to that, learn what I need to learn, and get going. So it was a fun little project for sure. And I'm
well, now you emphasized how comprehensive it was. I doubt it was a little project. How many pages is it?
Well over 550. So yeah. It once you get going on it, though, this is kind of the statement that I made earlier, is like, Alteryx is a pretty profound tool. There are so many capabilities built into it that I very transparently couldn't cover everything that I wanted to, or it'd be like a 2,000 page book, which I don't think we could fit that on any bookshelves anywhere. But I definitely covered all the most prominent topics and areas of focus in Alteryx, but definitely not a small book. I was very lucky
on doing that. It sounds like an amazing resource. Yeah, we'll be sure to put the link to that in the show notes as well.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Very cool, and congrats again. Huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
Yeah, one that'll be beneficial to many people, I'm sure. A question I always like to ask every single person that comes on the podcast is, and I think you'll come at this from a unique perspective, which is kind of the depth of work that you've done in the field, is what's your favorite use case for modern analytics? Like, what's something, it doesn't have to be something that you've worked on. Like, what's something that you think that's out there that's like, gosh, that's really impactful, and I wish more people knew about it,
Yeah. So I'm a huge, just carte blanche, I'm a huge fan of almost all use cases, because it's all the problem solving is what I really get jazzed about. I love, whether it's, I've done pharmaceutical analysis, supply chain analysis, analysis, manufacturing stuff, finance, all the different areas. I would say all of them. I'm really, supply chain is probably the one that I get most excited about. Cool. I like it because, frankly, there's some really hard problems there, because usually supply chains in organizations are quite complex. There's a lot of moving parts. There's somehow triggers my fascination. One of the areas that I worked on at multiple companies, and then when I got into consulting, I helped on, was anything related to kind of 360 views. I'm a huge fan of those, because it is the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges that a lot of companies have, is they don't see the real view of a customer.
For sure. Yep.
Agreed. They don't have that kind of full view to where if they did, they might make different decisions. So you'll see a lot of organizations, do these 360 analysis, 360 views, you call it, a whole bunch of names for them, but anything of the like that is doing their best to get a holistic view of what their customer is. Because if you get that part figured out, you can make a heck of a lot better decisions going after that and solving their problems directly versus assuming that you do. I'm also, like, just as a side note, I'm a quirky point of view is I'm actually a real big fan of non-traditional use cases. So solving problems, like we have the weekly challenges, which are really good in Alteryx. They're really bite-sized problems. But I like stuff like there's a really great one. If you're a real Alteryx nerd, even a coding nerd could do it, is the advent of code. And it comes up in December, every day in December.
Okay.
Really, really popular now. I mean, we're talking millions of people do it every year. But what's interesting about it is these little bite-sized coding challenges. It's meant for programmers originally, but bite-sized that get harder and harder over the days going into Christmas and into New Year's. But of course, Alteryx users being as passionate and wild and crazy as we are, we're like, okay, let's do all this stuff in Alteryx and figure out how far we can get and what problems we could actually solve. And they're frankly really addicting because they're good, fun problems, usually centered around elves doing something silly, but very highly quantitative. But I love a lot of those because it's almost like it keeps my problem solving skills fresh and excited, and I've applied those learnings hundreds of times over to actual use case problems out in the real world.
That's awesome. I got to keep an eye out for that one come the holiday season.
You'll be up late at night, I promise.
Very cool. Awesome. So I'm super appreciative of the time that you took here. I know you're a very, very busy guy. I'm glad we could make this happen. Curious how folks can follow more of what you're doing, follow you around the world, hear what you're up to. What's the best way to stay in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy anybody to reach out. I would love it. It'd make my day. I do a couple things. So obviously at Inspire, we do I do a lot of keynotes and talks. Mm-hmm. Always try to do technical talks. So I would say make sure to show up at Alteryx Inspire. Come say hi next year. I do a blog with one of my best buddies on the face of the earth, a guy named Chris Goodman, who's also an Alteryx ace, former coworker, called Alteryx. So little play on the name here, but it's really one of the topics we're really big about, and we try to share is this idea of design patterns that are in Alteryx, about building 3 or 4 tools that do something specific that we're trying to do. So we have a whole bunch of examples and blogs and even a couple podcasts out there for that. And then I think the best way is just LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Reach out, connect, ping me. I'm more than happy to connect and help however I can. And then obviously I got the book, which would be appreciated. Anybody who's really is looking for learning how to use Alteryx, that's the way to go.
Very cool. Awesome. So we'll have the book, of course, in the show notes, and then some of the other links, to the LinkedIn page and the blog, as well as Alteryx events. So definitely include that. There's a lot of good stuff. If you're out listening to this, you're on the road, you're working out or whatever, head back to take a look at the show notes when you get back home to your home office, and check out some of these amazing resources that Joshua shared. You got a treasure trove here of links that we're putting in the show notes.
Good.
Yeah.
So happy. Hopefully it's helpful and useful to others.
Oh, I have no doubt. Yeah, definitely. Very fun talking with you. I'm sure many will find this to be a fun conversation to listen to and insightful. So thanks so much, Joshua.
My pleasure.
Talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
Yes. Nice chatting with you.
All right.